What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Cody Campbell with High Ground Gaming, and today we are unboxing and reviewing the AOC GM500 gaming mouse. I'm going to start by walking you through the specs, then we'll unbox it. You'll get a first-hand look at it. After that, I'll use it a little bit, check it out, and give you my thoughts on the product, and from there, we'll go to High Ground Gaming's final score. Stick around. So the GM500 is a little bit of a budget option. We already did the review for the GM700, which is AOC's more performance grade mouse. This one is considerably cheaper and maybe doesn't have 100% of the options that other mouse did. But we're still gonna take a look at it anyway, and we're gonna see what this one has to offer at the lower price point. It is a wired mouse. It comes with a USB 2.0 connection. It also has customizable RGB via the AOC G Tools software. It has a PMW 3325 sensor with 5000 DPI. It has Omron mechanical switches, and it has swappable left and right keys. It's also compatible with NVIDIA Reflex Analyzer, which is a software component that comes with anyone who has an NVIDIA GPU. It pretty much guarantees that you're gonna have low input lag, which is a pretty nice feature to have in a lower budget mouse. That's it for the specs though. Let's open her up. So, comes with the quick start guide, and then the mouse itself, and that's pretty much it. Nothing else in there. Let's see. The cord itself is braided and pretty long. You got some reach here, so if you need to plug that directly into your PC, you've got some space to work with. The mouse itself feels good. It looks very sleek. It's got an all black quality to it. You can see that there's going to be some RGB on the side of the wheel there, in the branding label at the top, and in this ring that goes all the way around. It feels good in the hand. It's a little light. Some people really like that, like a lighter mouse. I generally prefer a heavier mouse, but this is fine. Clicks feel really good. I like that a lot. The inset of these buttons is going to make the left side ones are going to be real easy here because you can see those with your thumb from this point of view. The right side ones are, I guess you'll kind of just get used to them as you go, but they're kind of hard to feel out. If you have your first two fingers on the left and right button, you're going to have to kind of feel that with your ring finger there. And it's a little weird. It's a little awkward placement, but they are there. They are there as an option. You don't need to use them. Now, from what I understand, this is a DP switch button, and then this right here is a DP shift. That means that you're gonna be able to press this to slow down your mouse for those headshots, while this will switch through the general DPI for the whole mouse. Looks pretty good though. I'm gonna go ahead and take it in the back. I'm gonna plug it into my PC. I'm gonna use it for a while, and we'll be right back with the review. Don't go anywhere. It's time to review the mouse, but before we do that, I want you to take your mouse and scroll on down to the like and the subscribe button, and then just give those bad boys a little click. All right? Cool. So, the AOC GM500 is a pretty good budget mouse from my experience. I'm gonna start by talking about the build quality. First of all, I want to talk about the design a little bit. It's got this all matte black exterior, a black braided cable. The only color comes from the RGB, which is really nice because that means that you can customize it to match any setups you have. I have a largely sort of bluish purple, hints of red sort of aesthetic in my office, so I like to sort of restrict RGB to those sort of color spectrums so everything matches. Because this is neutral, you can do that. I've noticed a lot of AOC gear, they tend to put little red accents on there because that's their sort of branding. It's like NVIDIA is green, AOC is red, that sort of thing. That's cool and all for them, but a lot of people don't want the black and red traditional gamer aesthetic. They want different colors. So having that option is pretty cool. The overall design in terms of the shell shape and stuff like that is very similar to the Logitech G203. Now that's not super surprising because that's a very popular mouse, so I could see why they'd want to emulate that. The only real difference that I noticed in terms of like general design stuff is that this has RGB on the mouse wheel and the 203 does not. Otherwise, the shell shape, the little trace line along the palm here, the placement of the branding, the placement of the buttons, it's all very much the same. So this actually is really smart from AOC because they essentially took a very, very popular product and they replicated it at a lower price, which is, you know, pretty clever from a business perspective. While this is a very popular design, I personally found that it's actually kind of small for my hand. Personally, I cramp up a little bit after a couple hours of use. That might not be the case for most people. My hands are a little bit on the larger side, but that is something worth noting. If you have larger hands, then this might not be the most comfortable fit for you. But small to medium-sized hands, you're probably good. The two buttons on either side can be customized to do different things, but one of the most popular uses for these buttons, and my personal favorite, is to put a DPI shift on there. Now, out of the box, this button is set as a DPI shift. I moved it to this one because I think that's a little easier and more natural for in-game. And what that basically does is when you hold down the DPI shift, it lowers your DPI to the point where the mouse is barely moving. That's really nice for getting those headshots where you can just scroll quickly over to the general vicinity of a person, click the DPI, and then get that fine-tuned final motion to just zero in on that distant headshot. Pretty cool little trick, and it's a useful feature to have on any mouse that you plan on using for any sort of shooters or anything like that. Now, how you can control those buttons is through the G-Tools software. We talked a little bit about this software when we did our review of the AGK700 keyboard and the AGM700 mouse, which are also from AOC. Those are their slightly more expensive tournament-grade peripherals. The software allows you to set up to 5 different profiles, so you can do 5 different lighting profiles, 5 different DPI profiles, all that different stuff, so that you can easily switch between them if you want one set for, say, shooters, and you want another one set for racing games, and you want a third one set for just general productivity. That way you can just go into the software, switch profiles, and you don't have to manually adjust every setting every time. So that's always a convenient feature. You can use it to reassign buttons, as we've discussed. You can also easily switch this from a right-handed mouse to a left-handed mouse with a click of a button. It literally just flips everything on the mouse so that it can be used on the left-hand side. That's pretty handy, especially since this mouse already has a very symmetrical design. So that basically means that this is perfect for both right and left-handed people. It's not ergonomically centered to a right hand, so it's really easy to use for a lefty. You can also use the software to adjust DPI, polling rate, double click, Windows pointer speed, and scrolling speed. In addition to that, it controls RGB, which is pretty important since there's not really any way to hotkey in RGB commands, so having software to change it is really, really handy. There are 5 different RGB effects that this comes with. There's static, breathing, blink, flashing, or DPI. And most of them are pretty basic. This is the standard unicorn puke rainbow effect, or you can set it to static. I didn't really like the blink or the DPI or anything like that, but you have a couple options, which is more than you can say about most sub $20 mice. It also has AOC's RGB sync program. Now that's useful if you have an AOC keyboard, an AOC mouse, an AOC monitor, an AOC headset or mouse pad or whatever, and they all have RGB. And you want to synchronize them so you get the exact same personally tailored colors in all of them so that they all match. So that's pretty useful. Now, none of these features are particularly rare or exciting. They're all pretty common. And we've talked about in the past how the AOC G-Tools software really just kind of looks and feels old compared to other software like the Razer Synapse software or the HyperX Ingenuity software or the Logitech software. It all has a very modern feel, whereas G-Tools feels like it was made in the early 2000s a little bit, just from the look and the design of it. It does everything really well. It doesn't crash. It's not buggy at all or anything like that, which is more than I can say for some of those other programs. It just doesn't have a ton of options, and it doesn't really feel like a modern premium piece of software. Honestly though, in a sub $20 mouse, having any software at all is a major luxury and a major plus. So even though it's not the best software in the world, it's pretty cool that this even has software. So that's gonna get a big thumbs up. In terms of gaming performance, I played some Horizon Zero Dawn. I was getting kind of tired of testing Doom with every single product that I made, so I wanted to play something a little different. And Horizon Zero Dawn, in spite of not being a shooter in the strictest sense, actually requires a lot of fine movement, hitting those teeny tiny targets on those moving robots with your bow. And I found that it worked pretty well. It was a little shaky at first, but once I got into the settings and fine-tuned the DPI a little bit, I found it to be very smooth. Now, one of the big selling points for this was supposed to be that it has the NVIDIA Reflex analyzer, which synchronizes it with your GPU so that it's really fine-tuned the scrolling to the point that you should be inseparable. I didn't notice any difference whatsoever. I'm not saying there isn't a difference. I'm not saying there isn't some millisecond difference between this and a mouse that doesn't have NVIDIA Reflex Analyzer. I'm just saying, for me personally, it was not the least bit noticeable, and I do not think it's really worth choosing this mouse over another mouse. I mean, it's a bonus no matter what. It's not a detriment to the mouse, that's for sure. It's just not something that I really consider a major selling point. So with all that out of the way, let's get down to the verdict. So this guy's definitely on the budget side of things. I mean, you could probably go on Amazon and find some gaming mouse with rainbow RGB for $8 if you wanted to. But just because it says gaming mouse and just because it has RGB doesn't mean that it's any sort of quality whatsoever, and that the polling isn't garbage, and that you're not going to just really struggle to get decent shots with it. For my money though, this guy's pretty good. It MSRPs at $18.99, which is considerably cheaper than pretty much any other name brand out there. The Logitech and the Razer and the Corsair, all the mice that came closest to this were somewhere in the $25 to $30 range. The only one that I could find that was kind of comparable was the Red Dragon M602. That was around the same price. It was a more ergonomic righty design. It had some weight adjustability, and I'm pretty sure they have software. I always have a hard time finding Red Dragon software, but I'm pretty sure they do. It didn't have the NVIDIA Reflex Analyzer, and it didn't have some of the other features that this mouse has. And it's a very different mouse, all in all. It's a very different design and stuff like that. Also, I would consider AOC to be a slightly larger brand than Red Dragon, so maybe there's a little bit more of a price tag due to brand recognition. Either way, I think that this is an excellent choice in the sub $20 market. If you don't want that ergonomic design from the Red Dragon, then this is the one to get. So we actually gave this a 4 out of 5, which I consider a pretty solid score. It obviously doesn't have a lot of the super fancy features that more expensive mice have. It doesn't have weight adjustability, which is a little bit of a bummer because I really like a heavier mouse and this is pretty light. And it's not the best software in the world, but given its price point, this thing is pretty fantastic. So if you're looking to get something without spending a ton of money, I think this is a solid choice. That's going to do it for us today, though. Why don't you go ahead and drop down into the comments and let us know if this mouse appeals to you. Do you prefer a more ergonomic design, or do you prefer something more neutral and symmetrical like this? While you're at it, leave a like, subscribe. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Happy gaming.